The sessions are designed to equip artists with the skills, tools, and information that they're going to need to help them organize, establish, and grow their music as a business. And I'd like to begin by recognizing that Manitoba Music was founded on Treaty 1 territory, which is the original lands of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji-Cree, Dakota, and Dene peoples. And it's also the homeland of the Métis Nation, and I'd like to recognize a strong Inuit community here in Manitoba. Manitoba Music respects the treaty in which our organization resides, and we commit to moving forward in partnership with Indigenous communities in the spirits of collaboration and reconciliation. So again, thank you for joining us. And today we also have someone else joining us by the name of Luther Mallory. Luther Mallory is an artist performance coach specializing in stage psychology and has worked with over 900 artists over the past 9 years. Based out of Toronto, Luther, he delivers seminars and workshops to artists and creators across the world, helping them to progress their careers on stage and online by teaching them how to overcome the mental, emotional, and spiritual barriers that they might face in pursuit of their career. Luther's also the performance coach of the acclaimed Artist Entrepreneur Program at Canada's Music Incubator and the Juno Masterclass. That's where I actually first learned of Luther and got a chance to work with him. And the reason why we're doing this particular workshop is because live performance is the art of creating something worth the attention of the market. Juno Masterclass coach Luther Mallory is here, and he's going to discuss with us how to increase our potential and how much and how valuable a live stage show is to your career. And we're doing all of this as part of our swim program. You're going to hear a lot more about that over the next few weeks. It's our first annual Sound Waves music meeting, and it's going to be happening this summer at the end in June 23rd, 24th, 25th. And one of the backbones of that big event is going to be some performance coaching hosted by none other than, I'm not saying me, I'm saying Luther. And Luther's here, and he's going to help us figure out what all of that really means and why it's super important that we all make sure we make performance the backbone of our musical career. So, Luther, how are you doing?
Excellent. Thanks for having me. It really is, like the thing about it though is that I've spent 2 years talking about the friggin' internet, and it's really, that's the challenge. It's like everybody in that space, me and everybody else that's a performer, going like, what happened in the last 2 years? It's been like insanely weird. And certainly the artists that I chat with, I'd like to know about the artists that you chat with, are like stuck and confused and aggressively avoiding the internet in the social media sense a lot of the time, where they're just like, this is super annoying that we have been engulfed by social media and now performance is there. And now it's coming back, but it's still kind of like, it's always going to be this hybrid thing. Certainly if you're going to build a fan base, it's probably on the internet, on social media.
Yes.
So the resistance is at the heart of that, where it's like performance has changed and been digitized and replaced. The audience has been replaced with the piece of metal and plastic. And so, I think we want to chat about that, stage performance and stream performance, any performance, particularly if you're an artist that's kind of in resistance of like what's happening culturally.
For sure. Definitely. Now you mentioned performance and you're talking about the online aspect of it. Now, obviously, people are on there with their Twitter. Artists getting on there with Twitter is hard enough. Getting on their social media is hard enough. And doing all of these things that seem superfluous, extra, beyond the necessary act of like, I just make music, like just let me do that. And now this whole new aspect of online performing is taking over. What are some of the things that maybe we haven't really been thinking about that differ from the on-stage performance to like performing in front of a webcam in like even a concert context or anything? What are some things that we might not even be familiar that we're not familiar with, if that works?
Sure. Like because it's this thing, right? Because like you're alone in your house and then you're performing now, not for a person, but for something that represents somewhere between 11 and 7 billion people. And that's hard to get over. And it is 11, by the way. Wow. Like if you've ever been on an Instagram live, there's 11 people there. There
Yeah.
is never more than that, and there is never less than that. It's the same 11 people because nobody likes it. Eh? Like
Yeah.
that's like Instagram Live. People are like, I don't know. It's weird. It's weird to get on. It's weird to get off. It's weird
Yeah.
to perform on there. And I think like for performance, it's this thing where like what's different now is performing here is like it's the same center where it's about risk and it's about fear. It's about like, oh, how do I get into it and how do I kind of like get into the moment with it and find the energy when I'm alone in my room, and how do I'm not feeding off the audience
Yeah.
and everything like that. And it comes down to risk where it's like, how can you summon energy to do something interesting instead of going like, well, I don't have the energy because it's the internet, or I don't have the energy because I'm on stage and I'm afraid of this thing, or I'm overwhelmed, or I'm overthinking. And it's like, yeah, okay, but can't you get energy if you just go like this and then get there somehow? Like, can't
Yeah.
you challenge it and do it? And the answer is yes, but it's horrifying to do weird shit on the internet and have people look at it and judge you. So I think it's the same thing. It's just, it comes down to feeling judged, and so bowing out of the work that is involved in taking risks, because what if somebody thinks that what I did was stupid? And I think that's human. There's life on Earth right there.
Yeah. No. I definitely can relate. One of the things that was cool was, I make music myself. I perform with a group called the Lytics. We were lucky enough to be selected to do the Juno Masterclass a few years back, and you were our performance coach, and for everybody that year, and it was wonderful, and it was cool. Like, I will say, without a shadow of a doubt, 100%, my mindset changed entirely after that experience and getting that training. And it was weird because it was just like, it's that switch. It's that switch from like, you're coming up here to play a show, and you switch that to, it's like, no, you're doing your job. It was like you wake up in the morning, you eat breakfast, you take a shower, you make sure that you had a nice sleep the night before, you get dressed properly, and you go into the office, because that's what you do when you go to work. And it was this nice thing of like, not feeling, obviously performance has a lot of vulnerability involved to it, but there was this other element that came behind, like, sure, you're vulnerable, but that's part of your job and you're good at your job. So like, go out there and do your job. And it was cool. It changed everything. And it didn't matter anymore. Like, without going on this rant any further, the coolest thing that I learned from you kind of was just kind of cutting off a little bit on what's going on the other side of the stage, and even like the surrounding. Like, you can only really control like this much of the world, and having that little part to be in control of made a world of difference. And it was just like, oh yeah, I don't have to worry about how many people showed up. I don't have to worry about the sound tech. I don't, well, always, hopefully have a good sound tech, but like, there's all these things that your mind is doing that you have zero control over, and it was the simplification.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing, because there's the desire for connection, and that's different than the artist's obsession with control, where it's like, there's that person in the front row with the arms folded, so I better limit my entire performance to try to generalize everything so they're happy. And that's always the person that afterwards comes up and goes, a great show, and you go like, fuck, I limited my entire performance to try to make you happy. And if that person could talk, they'd be like, well, you can't control my thoughts. Is that obvious enough? And so it's that thing where it's like, you kind of want to let go of the things that can't possibly be controlled, instead of being in the full brain, with the brain full of thoughts about like, how about this, supervising in your mind with a clipboard about like, let's worry about this. Because if I break down my work into something really simple, it's like the artist has a full brain on stage or in performance, because they're calculating and measuring so many things. My work has to do with extracting all of that by just figuring out what it is, and then figuring out one thing that's really beneficial and putting it in there, which then leaves all this empty space for what? For source energy, expression, magic, whatever you want to call it, where it's not burdened by the overthinking and the overwhelm.
Yeah.
And then the connection can happen, because the obsession is spontaneity. Artists get on stage and they go, it's got to be spontaneous. And it's like, I think it's probably got to be structured, and then you'll be spontaneous within the structure. But instead, they're waiting for the white light from the fucking universe to shine into their eyeballs, and then they're just going to do everything they ever wanted. What really happens is they get on stage and the brain's going, what do we do next? And they're like, well, we're being spontaneous. And the brain's like, well, I'm a brain, right? So we don't really do that. And so you end up chasing your brain around the stage instead of just making some simple decisions and then being spontaneous within that structure.
That is, I actually, you know what? I'm going to walk away from that with this conversation with that. I'm a brain, right? Like, you want to be spontaneous, your brain. I'm a brain. I literally control all of these things. Yeah, I'm a computer.
Yeah. Would be better than spontaneity, making some choices. That's what your brain's saying. You're like, no, let's do it. I
love that. I love that.
Yeah, because you even look at like the biggest shows ever, and you just go like, is Beyonce's show not spontaneous feeling? No, of course it is, but it's also completely built. Yeah. They built it, and then she finds spontaneity within what has been. There's a lot of relief in structure. As an ADHD kid, like, I need rigid structure, and then I can be spontaneous and creative within that. But if I do what I did until I was 39 or whatever, and I just went like, what I'm going to do? I'm going to ride my feelings. Let's go. It's just that's a deep dive into a fucking cavern of sadness. That's basically what that is for me.
Feelings are the worst.
Yes.
It's funny. I also definite ADHD kid, and I think, interestingly enough, a lot of the artists that I end up talking to, if you spend enough time, you end up finding that they are a lot of ADHD kids, or some other type of like differently wired than the norm brains that kind of create these beautiful kind of like just magic sparks. And the thing is, for me, it's so wild because your brain's wired a little different. It has these different sparks and it moves in a different way. And because all the textbooks kind of are written one way, the only explanation for the rest of our brains are like, oh, it's just this magic special kind of sauce that you guys have, which is really great. And it helps to bring you back a little bit of that confidence when you realize that you're different than all the other kids. But what it doesn't do is it creates that illusion that you don't need structure, or that structures don't apply to you. No, they do, just not the structures that necessarily work for everybody else. And figuring that out, that's when the power comes. Because like I was saying, after working with you, we get up on stage now and it's like, but, and people might think that's so like restricting. I'm like, no, see, because you're sitting there going like, well, if 90% of the space is filled, you only get to be creative with 10%. Do you know how huge 10% is? And if 10% is as massive, once you realize how big 10% is, think about how astronomically and uncomfortably big 90% is. You want to be riffing 90% of the time? That's disgusting. You will burn yourself out in 10 minutes, right?
Right. Very rare that somebody does that, right? Oh. And like I come from pop punk bands, like, and pop rock bands, and we were like an energy band. Like, I've got 1,000 shows as a front man in a band, and we were just an energy band. And if I could go back in time, I'd be like, and talk to myself, I'd be like, keep the energy, and then just pick like a few things to do on purpose also. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to be you're riding somebody's shoulders and painting your face with, like, just because you saw a marker on the ground. Like, it doesn't have to be always all of that. And you could calculate some of those things. I could come up with some moments and build some structure into this. And the thing too, because like we're talking about the technical side there of like building structure, which really, if you think about two sides of a performance, the technical and the expressive, the technical is the language that expression speaks. So the better you really do know the technical, the better you can speak the language, right? Yes. And so that's the delusion, is that that technical is going to ruin some sort of creativity. But then on the expressive side, it really is about, and this is what we hit so hard in the Destroy the Stage event and at the workshops and things that I do, is it's totally about learning the skills and the tactics for moving out of here and this annoying judgmental piece of shit thing here and into just the body energy where you can actually take risks, where you want to go and do one of those things you've built, but the brain goes, no, 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 no. Oh, yeah. Of course not. Yeah. No, we're not going to get up on the thing and jump off the whatever, or we're not going to cry during this song. And and so we really focus on the expressive side of like, how do you get into the moment deliberately? How do you summon inspiration and creativity on purpose, on command? And that stuff can really be taught and controlled, and it doesn't have to be where your brain is just leading you everywhere.
And it's really funny when you say stuff like that, like somebody, I'm going to climb up on the amp and jump off the amp. Well, that might be really cool, but it also might be super dangerous. However, if we knew there was an opportunity that, hey, you know what? Sometimes Alex climbs up on the amp. Like maybe we make sure that the amp is real sturdy and like we kind of like anchor it down so that it can contain me. Is that somebody going like, oh, well, that's not off the cuff? Well, I mean, you don't have to jump off the amp, but like, don't you think a little bit of structure, meaning like if you actually wanted to do that, maybe plan for it a little bit, or like it just allows you to flow. Or even you look at a stage, everybody knows who's played a show. There's all this stuff going on behind me in a stage that I can't perform at. It serves no purpose for me to run around back there. That's kind of the same idea. You're limiting it to like, this is the play, or for sport, you're on the soccer pitch or whatever they call it, or a basketball court or a hockey rink. Right. Skating around in the stands makes zero sense. Right? Okay, but having that rink around you, right, it makes the game even easier. And now take it a step further. I'm not a huge hockey fan, so forgive me if I'm getting it wrong, but it's like, okay, now that's the net. The goal is to actually put the puck in the net. It even shrinks what I'm allowed to do. But if you think about it, it's all the rules that make the creativity in hockey or basketball or whatever work. You need that structure. No structure, you have no game. And like I always say during the I do these consults all the time. I said, you're trying to think outside of the box, but you don't even know what the box is. Like, how can you think outside of something when you don't even know, like, how big is your box? Is it a square box? Is it a rectangle box? You don't know when you're breaking a rule because you have no rules. So, and I love that. I love that.
I think you're right. And I think so if I'm picturing my dream hockey game now, it's like there's intention behind trying to get a goal. So you get a skilled player on the technical side who can get goals, and then he gets a goal, and then he skates through the stands. And that's my favorite show, where he knew the structure, he got the goal, and he went and did some spontaneous, absolutely crazy shit. And then everybody's like, did you see that game where that guy both was incredibly skilled and did the weirdest crap that he got arrested for? I'd be like, that's my favorite hockey player. Yes, of course.
Exactly. So that's actually beautiful.
Yeah. It's a beautiful combination of spontaneity and structure. Because of course there's moments on stage where you go, oh, all of a sudden I see a person, in the front row, whatever, I'm going to go, get on their shoulders and sing a song or something. Totally spontaneous. That's excellent. And then when I get back on stage, there's this thing I planned that anchors me back to the show.
Yes. And that's great. And, forbid you actually are, it's like, if you're in my situation, you're on the stage with 4 other people. So spontaneity is great, but these guys aren't psychic. So, I mean, imagine if we're all running off doing our own things fall apart. But when you know that you have these flash moments or these moments where it's like, I have no idea what Alex is going to do, but I know that right now in this spot, in this space, he's going to do something. And that's what he does. And it's cool because you start having those boundaries. Now, to take it back to swim, like I said, we're June 23rd, June 24th, June 25th. 25th, we're doing the Destroy the Stage. So maybe we'll start off by let everybody know what we can expect at the Destroy the Stage part of the performance camp program.
So Destroy the Stage is a performance coaching event. And so it's going to be on the Saturday after the one-on-ones that artists will be applying for the 2 days before that. And then, so this is a 2-hour event meant to challenge artists in the performance skills, and that's the technical skills and the expressive skills. So we're going to touch on building a show and rehearsal and pre-show ritual, but mostly Destroy the Stage is really about challenging artists to risk more and access the moment, and showing those skills that are like, how do you get out of the overthinking so you are willing to go, yeah, I'm a tree, or whatever the dumb thing is, or the vulnerable thing, or the silly thing, like accessing your actual self. Because everybody watching knows that thing. You're on stage, you want to do something, and your brain goes, no. Oh no, of course not. No. And so you go, okay, I won't, even though you dreamt of it 20 minutes before sleep the night, so we want to get over that, because we want to be able to build risk into the show on the technical side. Then we have to have the guts to pull the stuff off, right? So if you decided to do this crazy thing and you get on stage and you don't have the guts because your brain is just saying, no, risk adverse, we got to have those skills to be like, how do I ground, center, get back to the moment? How do I anchor somewhere that allows me to have the confidence to reach my fearless expression? So in the event in Destroy the Stage, it's 2 hours basically of some instruction from me, and hopefully some entertainment from me, and then a lot of crowd interaction, a lot of engagement, a lot of down in the audience challenging artists, a lot of getting people up on stage to try stuff and push the risk. So a lot of just baby stepping people out of the comfort zone. And in the history of the workshop version of Destroy the Stage, it gets pretty wacky. Like it gets pretty wild. We've had it where we've got the entire crowd of people, jumping and screaming in the Air Tonight by Phil Collins, and it's madness and it's fun. And you leave going like, that was a workout. And that's how you do it. That's how you get your energy up, So that's what I hope people leave with, is going like, I pushed myself into more risk, and I can do this on stage and on stream, any performance.
Perfect. And I do see that we have some questions coming in, and I'm definitely going to make sure that we touch on those. By the way, anybody watching, feel free to put your questions in, and we will get to them. I should have said that earlier. I was really excited about this conversation, and I let it slide. But I'm really looking forward to the questions so I can get those to Luther, and I really look forward to his answers. So
can I add something, Alex, to that? What I was just saying, because I do want to add this, because I think it's really important. Like people at a Destroy the Stage event that are in your mind, like if you in your mind right now are going like, well, I don't really want that challenge, but I'm a guy who sits back and watches, and I'll still learn and absorb. You would never feel like you had to. You know what I mean? Like you would never feel like, okay, I'm going to get dragged into something like, like getting picked out of the audience by Ellen or something. Come up on stage, and you're like, oh God, like my nightmare. That's my personal nightmare if I don't want to do that. So there's no pressure in that sense, so there's like a learn from a distance element there, and there's a get involved element there. And so it's worth it either way.
And along with that, I mean, if you're a performer though, right? Like if you're a performer, and we haven't touched on this, so I'll make sure I'll make a note of it. We'll jump back to it. If you are a performer though, like you want to perform, like you got to be comfortable performing. And anyways, so that's Destroy the Stage. It's a 2-hour event that's happening on the Saturday, but on the Thursday and on the Friday, we also have that one-on-one kind of coaching, which will also be open to the public, by the way, for people to come in and observe some of that. And even though you're not working with Luther one-on-one, you can still see and grab some of the environment and see what's going on to demystify a little bit of it. But the value is really, I mean, the power move straight up is getting your applications in and getting selected. Because like I said, life-changing, transformative experience as far as like, I'm a musician. I like performing, and that's part of my job. So I want all of the tools that I can have, and Luther was able to fill in a lot of the blanks. Walk us through some of the one-on-ones type things that we can expect if we were to apply or to observe on the Tuesday and the Thursday and the Friday.
Yeah, so the one-on-ones, I mean, it's great because it can get very customized, like, because it will really dig into barriers there with these artists in terms of like, you've got the diploma driven artists that went to university that are now hung up in that place where like perfectionism and have to kind of let go a little bit. You've got the over energized punk rock girl, who's just like needs some structure. You got the controlling parents issue, so you can't let go and be less judgmental on stage. So there's this whole element of like, why are you having the barriers that you're having, the spiritual, mental, emotional barriers? What's going on? How
Yeah.
could we sort of like identify that? And then
Yeah.
leaning into that in terms of the tactics and strategies that I've used for the last 9 years with artists, the performance skills to snap you out of here and get you into that place where you're willing to risk, access the moment, so we'll learn those skills. And then in the one-on-ones, it's awesome too, because we'll move to the technical side and go, here's how you build a show. Here's how you rehearse for it. Here's how you warm up for it so you can deliver it from that place of risk. So in the one-on-ones, we try to hit everything. The technical part of how do you make an interesting show that people would want to see and that you want to be part of? And then how do you lean into that risk? And it's important to say as well, I think, like, you can't be wrong as an artist, right? Like you couldn't get it wrong.
Yeah.
So none of my work has to do with here's what you do. I hate that. Oh my God, I hate that. There isn't a right answer to that.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like my work is going like, here's a system that you can use to look at how to build a great show.
Yes.
And here's systems for how you can get out of your head so that you can access your own fearless self-expression, so that you can do the shit that you came up with.
Yes.
Instead of like, during the bass solo, get up on your bass amp and then you jump off it at this moment and then the crowd goes wild and you sell 10 million records. No, you have your own idea about what a cool performance is. I just want to help you unlock it.
That's great. I think that's super valuable. I will get to a question right now. Liz had asked, how do you work together in advance to make sure you all have space to be spontaneous and it all works together? I'm assuming that's in a group context, but yeah.
Liz, that's right, Liz. Like, so in terms of the one-on-ones, we're going to hit a group workshop at the end of May, I think, right? May 30th, I think, something like that. Group workshop for all the one-on-one people. We're going to get together to do high level stuff in terms of concepts. So here's the performance skills at the high level that I'll show you, so that you can go away and mess around with that, with some homework, with some challenges, so that when it comes to one-on-one time, you've already got a month of sort of practice with the main concepts. And then we have tons of space there to up the energy in the first hour. I think we're doing 90 minutes or something, 2 hours, something like that. But the one-on-ones, we've got lots of time to up the energy and get into that space where there's plenty of time to find freedom and play with it. And how about this? And how about that? Then It just becomes fun and experimental.
Cool. And also, don't know if it was mentioned earlier, but if you are maybe not so much a musician and just like an actor or a public speaker, or this is very much, directed at, musicians. However, this is very much applicable to anybody that hops behind a microphone and is tasked with speaking or presenting to a bunch of people. So a lot of the stuff is transferable. And as far as, as group stuff, even in my own experience, on stage, the easiest way, it goes back to that structure. The easiest way to be spontaneous with 5-6 other people is to make sure that we all know what spontaneity, I think I got it right, what spontaneity is acceptable as a group and what spontaneity is unacceptable or out of bounds. Do you know what I mean? And realistically, I feel like anytime you're presenting, just in as a rule, 2022 going forward and everything, it's real nice to make sure if you're on stage with somebody, sharing a stage, sharing a microphone, I really hope that everybody's on the same page as far as like what's acceptable and what isn't acceptable. Just getting that out of the way ahead of time, doing some wildness, and you're literally stuck. Everybody has camera phones nowadays, and the last thing you want to do is be stuck on stage beside somebody doing or saying something absolutely terrible and having that go viral everywhere. So that's just some life advice that I hope
And I want to say, like, I think you're right, but I also think, like, fuck, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Like, can you get it wrong? That's the thing. And it really, I mean, that's a debate, like
That is
a
true.
moral debate too. It's just like, can you get it wrong? I
That's
remember
true.
working with an artist a few years ago that in a group workshop setting, and he delivered his kind of trap thing, and it was pretty on the nose for like what trap lyrics and stuff are. So it's not exactly not misogynistic and all of that stuff. And
Mhm.
then the feedback from the audience was just like, I don't think you should sing about that. And I was kind of like, yeah, I don't know. I don't like misogyny, but I also don't know that I want to tell somebody what their art should be, you know? So it's a tricky one there.
It's definitely, you know what? In that context, I will say this. This is where I've always stood on that, is that I think everybody should feel comfortable 100% to say or perform however they want. But just remember the caveat to that is by being comfortable to get on stage and say and do whatever you want, you better be comfortable to accept the feedback and the backlashes that will come your way. So,
You
you know
are
what I mean? Like,
absolutely right.
and that's the
Yeah.
thing, you know, we're talking about freedom of speech, especially as far as performance goes and performers go. I think that it's great that you're honest and go out there and tell the world how you feel and do what it is. Just remember when you start getting those nasty reviews and some like, you know, hey, you said something terrible about my mom. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Gonna,
So you're right. Yeah. You
they're
can say
coming
what
back
you
on
want.
you for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You may earn your backlash. Yes.
That's what it
That's
is. You know what I mean? Like, you can come up on stage and tell jokes about my mom for an hour straight and get real personal. Just realize we're probably going to get real personal on the back end of that too. You know what I mean?
Yes,
There's
I may body slam you off a balcony. That's right.
Whatever. But just saying, I love my mom. She's safe. No one's making fun of my mom. Please don't
Good.
make fun of my mom.
Yes, let's not do
But
that. No.
yeah, I know. It is interesting you say that. The next question, we have another question here. What kind of experience should artists have prior to applying for the one-on-ones? How experienced do they need to be?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What would you say to that, Luther?
I would say, like, it would be, well, I don't, what do you say to that, Alex?
You know what? I've thought about this. I've thought very carefully about this. And there's two ways to look at it. Well, there's always more than two ways. I lied already. What I would say is this: if you haven't performed yet, it might not be something that is going to be super valuable to you. Or if you haven't performed yet, it could be invaluable to you because it might be a chance to kind of get started without worrying about maybe it's a leg up. Maybe you're starting with some good instruction as to not develop bad habits. So I wouldn't say don't apply just because you haven't really been performing much yet. Just remember though that if you haven't really performed yet, then maybe you're not at that stage where you need to be worrying about things like that. And maybe you're somebody who wants to attend in the audience and just kind of watch some of the instruction there. So it always really depends. We can't really give you some personalized instruction on like your show experience if you don't have any. However, if you have played some shows and you were serious about it, you don't have to play a lot of shows, but if you're serious about it and you're putting in the work, then it's definitely something that you might you probably benefit from. That said, if you've played a lot of shows and you've been playing for years and maybe you've even been touring around the world, don't think that you're beyond this, because I can guarantee you one of the reasons in my role here at the industry coordinator, development coordinator, I was trying to look at filling some gaps that I see. And we have a lot of artists, great artists. They make great recorded music. They get on planes and they're being flown all around the world and they're playing shows, which is awesome. Does it mean that their stage show is dope? No. Does it mean that their stage show is good? I'm sure. But when I'm talking about dope, I'm talking about well thought out. I'm talking about repeatable. I'm talking about regardless of the turnout of the crowd, regardless of the energy that the crowd gives you, regardless of the boomerangs and wrenches that life and touring throws at your project, your performance all the time, can they repeat that high level performance? And is it going to hit me? That is not a thing that happens, because I personally, I can tell we've gone out there and we've killed it, and then we've gone out and things that we should kill, we didn't kill as hard, because we kill everything, but we haven't killed those other ones as hard. And the reason why is because the results weren't repeatable. there was too much to think about, like Luther was saying, and by distilling it down and really turning performing into a job, like a job with expectations and criteria. You would think that's really limiting. It was not limiting at all. It was like, hey, you start at this time. I need you to get this done and this done and this done and this done and this done by the end of your hour-long set. If you do all those things, I want to make sure you're checking with your customers a little bit here and there, making sure that you're feeling good. Da 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 da. I have that all done. If you can get this checklist off and you can get those done, however you feel necessary to do it, and however it works best for you and is most comfortable and authentic to you, those are those things. And then once you have those things, the rest of the time is yours. You can do whatever you want with it and you can build it. That opened up. I don't care what language, what country we were in. I don't care how big the stage was. I don't care if we were supposed to be playing at 8 p.m. and it got moved to 4:30 in the afternoon. We've had times where it got moved from 4:30 in the afternoon, we play that, and then get asked to come back and do a second set at 10 p.m. And all of that was only possible because of it stopped being this fun thing that we do and people were paying us money to do, but it started being part of the whole package. You make music in the studio like your job. You perform shows on stage like your job. And now if you give me more work, I come in, I do my job, and I get my money, and everybody's happy and it feels great and you're empowered. That was great. That was a big deal for us. So I don't care if you've been playing for a long time. I don't care if you've just started. Everybody can benefit from this type of training because, it's the truth.
Agreed. And I think because imagine you have some experience, or not even, imagine you have guts, or you know how to get guts, and you just put some work into the structure of a show. Do you know? And like I said, I've worked with almost 1,000 artists in this way, so I've seen the patterns. And it's like, do you know how easy it is to be the most interesting act on a 4-act bill if you've put this much thought into your? That's the thing. It's the problem where people just go, for us, the technical shows, we rehearsed it so we know it. There's the songs. And where technical ends, that's where most people just stop and they go, this is what we'll present. But where technical ends, expression begins. And you go, okay, but now show me some shit. Who are you?
Yeah.
Who are you?
Yeah.
Because if you do some shit that really makes me go, oh, there's the human being behind the technical fucking, wow, you nailed that song, but so what? Here, I'll tell you something. You can't win on songs. You can only win on risk because everybody has good songs.
Yes.
Everybody has good songs.
Yeah.
So you can only win on being yourself as fearlessly as possible. It's the only way. So you can crush every artist you ever share a bill with into eternity with this much work into building something deliberate and learning the skills of accessing the moment and getting into the risk stuff,
That's wild. When you're talking about risks, like break that down, like doing that, like when you say the word risk, what are you referring to for our viewers?
Risk. So let's say you have this is the dynamic range that's available.
Okay.
Right. So people perform in the controlled middle, I like to call it, because it doesn't feel scary to go, and this is my singing voice. There's my vibrato and my style. This feels like singing and it sounds like singing. And there's really nothing, right? So you're in the controlled middle there, and where the art is really made is on the fringes. When you push to the fringes, what the vulnerability that's way down here, the loud, crazy shit that's up here. Now we all have these ideas that are on the fringes, but we go back to the controlled middle because the brain goes like, whoa. Because the bigger the risk of rejection, right? Yeah. But also we got this problem where if you risk this much, the audience decides about you this much. And so they leave the show and they go like, either way, they go, But if you risk this much, you think of like Lady Gaga going to the Grammys in a meat dress.
The meat dress, yeah.
Right? Like she was definitely in her walk-in closet fastening the final pork chop to her left shoulder. And she was probably like, Michael, get the car and pull it around and put the tarp down because I am not going unless we go now. This is weird, And she had to take this big risk. And what does she get for that? She gets death threats. and she gets, "You're the greatest artist of all time." So the
Yeah.
amount of risk is equal to the amount of judgment from the audience.
Yeah.
And you can look at it in terms of, if they hate you, then you're probably risking a lot, and that's great. They can go and listen to Michael Bublé, and the people that really love it will
Yeah.
come in and be like, "This is legendary."
Yeah.
And
I
the
love
only
that.
reason we don't do it is because of the fear of rejection. What if this is wrong? What if this big risk is wrong and I'm stupid? Well, maybe you fucking are, but you might find your audience that way.
I do agree that there's a lot of I do agree with that. You risk a lot, you can gain a lot. And when you put that extra out, but again, to that kind of finding the boundaries that allow for the creativity. It's, you know, now I know that like you even did it, like beautiful singing voice there, and you did the vibrato and stuff like that. But
Thank
it's funny,
you.
see, but like even there, like throwing a crazy vibrato at the wrong place sounds like you're singing wrong.
Yeah.
Throwing the vibrato at the place that's most natural for you,
Yeah.
it makes it dope. And then you go
Right.
real hard on it because you're like, yeah, I know this works here. Like
Right.
Lady Gaga knew when she
Yeah.
went into there with the meat dress that she's like, I'm on one right now. People are gonna see this.
Yeah.
They're gonna think, and they're gonna. She just wanted to make everybody talk about the fact she was in a meat dress, and she won.
That's right.
And
Yeah.
she went really hard. She thought about it. She knew it is, and so that's the risk, but a huge reward. And I do like that aspect of it. So the one-on-ones are going to be really nice when you're tailoring it to people, because you're going to really help them to access that. And then, you know, Destroy the Stage is something a lot more group friendly, and something that's going to be really applicable to everybody.
Yep.
I really want everybody who's listening to this, who's going to come home from work later and listen to this, everybody who's going to see the post for the applications and think, I don't know, and watch a little bit of this. Each and every person that hears this, you really need to apply.
Yeah. Why
this
not?
is your job. If this might not be your job yet, but you want it to be your job. If you think for a second that you were going to make touring the world and performing your music your job, and you are not going to do everything in your power to make sure that you stand out and stand apart from all of the other people that they can book instead of you, I don't know what to say to you. I have no words for you. Because if you're not going to take each and every opportunity and scrounge up each and every inch of ability and training to, and again, this is not like one of those how-to things where it's like, do this at exactly 4:59 of your performance and wear this color and that's not a thing. This is like learning how to play the game your way. And when I'm talking about the game, I'm talking about, like, I can teach you how to shoot a basket, but everybody's going to shoot it a little bit differently. Everybody can teach you how to dribble, but everybody has their own style, or skate, but you have your own style. What's your own, like your little flex that you have? That's what this is. It's teaching you what ingredients taste good together rather than giving you a recipe, you know, teaching you how to cook instead of teaching you how to make one thing. And that's it. And that's where it's really gonna shine for you. So make sure you apply for this. If you have any questions, make sure you get them in there. Luther, I did have a couple more questions. What are some of the things that, or like I said, there are definitely people out there who are seeing this and they're thinking, it's cool, but I really don't need it. What are some things that we can be telling them? Like, because again, I just finished doing my own version. You know, this is about your money, by the way. This is your job. This is your money, right?
Yeah.
What can we tell those people to, like, really help them to understand the importance of this? Please, no basketball metaphors. You need to stop. That was one of the comments. I'm not dealing with that. Obviously, we're having some problems over here.
Because the show is all about basketball metaphors, unfortunately.
That's why I brought them up. So
it's 325 basketball metaphors.
I'm sorry.
And a story about when I quit basketball because I scored on my own net on my high school's only ever televised basketball game.
Is that a true story?
Yeah.
Oh, geez. Yeah, no. Okay.
Then I yelled at the entire audience to shut up. And then I quit sports. I hated the competition part, though. like that's why I got into music, because I was like, fuck this. Like, I don't like the seriousness of all this. I want to kind of come up with my own rules and just like do my thing, you know? But so to answer the question there, it's like you might be the best performer ever,
Yeah.
you know, but it's hard to get a sense of what this work is because it's not done that often in this way, where it's like
Yes.
about the psychology. And so in my experience, when an artist shows up on my rehearsal stage to work with me, a lot of the time they're kind of like, I don't know what we're going to do.
Yes.
And then I go, well, let's find out. And then a couple of hours later, they're like, I didn't realize I needed that. And so that's good enough to me, where it's like, why not apply, you know, at the worst, you waste a Thursday or something like that, or, you know, not enjoy the Saturday thing. And at the very best, you level up really dramatically for almost no cost to you and almost no work, you know? So might as well find out about it, you know?
I do appreciate that. I know in the before we actually got on today, we had a nice little talk, and I was even kind of giving you a little bit of a story. And there's a question there, and that's great. We'll get to it in a second. But I had given you a story. I'm not even gonna get to the story, but it was just, long story short. You know, you read a book. You might read a book this thick, and you get one thought or one idea from the book that didn't exist in your head. And in all the years of your planet, being on the planet and talking to other people, no one's ever shared with you or managed to get inside your head. But you read it, or you see it in a documentary, or you see it somewhere, and it just unlocks so many other things that are actually tied into that you didn't even notice. That is, I'm not going to lie. I can't speak for the other guys in the group, but, you know, there was probably like, you know, 4 or 5 things. The whole session with you was great. But there was probably like 4 or 5 things that you said that did that for me. Went into my brain, unlocked little things. Like I wouldn't have got them anywhere else but hanging out with you and getting that training from you. And they unlocked so many other things. Again, we had been performing for years and traveling all over the world before we even got in with you. But it was that little, and I was happy with what we were doing. And I thought we were doing a good job. But there was that little bit of like, and these little seeds or these little keys, and they just unlocked so much more potential that I didn't even know about. So, like you said, if you can spend a couple hours with somebody and it unlocks potentially 10 years of your life, like 15 years of your life, potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars or trips all around the world to do what you love or whatever it is, why wouldn't you do that? Like, that's mind blowing.
You're right, man. And, you know, I'll tell you guys too, because like, well, if you come to the thing, I'll give you the exercise, the 20-minute exercise that I give people that skips about 2 years of the movement practice. I don't know how to move. I don't know how to have stage presence. Like, you know, every show I move an ankle and then a thumb, and then I'm just like trying to get into the wrist part. I've got this exercise that I've been doing for years, 20 minutes long, that just cracks that open. And you just skip all of that bullshit about like, I don't know how to move on stage, which isn't probably the most popular one in terms of people's curiosity about like, I'm just not comfortable with movement, you know? So we get into that one, you know, and we can skip a lot of steps really quickly just because I've talked about the shit so much in my life now that I just have ways to explain some stuff. That's really all.
That's it. No, I appreciate that. Well, you're a teacher, and you know, if you want to learn 4th grade arithmetic, you know, you make sure you sit in on a 4th grade arithmetic class. If you want to learn how to cook, you should probably take a culinary class. However, we're all a bunch of performers, and it's very rare that you ever get a chance, unless you're like high level, or, you know, somebody's invested thousands of dollars in you, that you get a chance to sit in with a performance teacher, a performance coach that teaches you how to do the job. It's just one of those things that, you know, you've probably never been to trapeze school either. So, you know what I mean? Like, these are things that the average person doesn't really get to, but it'd be really cool. So make sure you look into that. I do have a question here. What are some of the changes you can expect to see or /feel from the coaching?
I think not to be cliche, but confidence. I think like a really dramatic lift in feeling like it's become a bit more of a science and a bit less of a lucky thing.
Yes.
Because there really is just the math involved in going like, how do I get out of my head? That very popular question where people always give you bullshit answers like, get in the moment. And you're like, when the fuck is that? What are you talking? And they're like, I don't know what I'm saying anyway. You know, like that's kind of the work I've worked on, which is like, what is that? The moment, the state of non-judgment, that flow state, you know, how do you get there? And back to what I said before, it's like this idea of you've got a full brain.
Yeah.
If we figure out what's in there, we can extract it because we know, and then we can figure out an anchor that's very positive for you and put one thing on purpose. That's called choose your focus. One of the performance skills, the technical skill of focus, right? We can put it in there and go, hey, now you got that. Now let's work with that. You have all this empty space for white light from the universe to shine into your eyeballs. And you're just doing this one thing. So instead of supervising everything, you're shoveling the coal yourself down on the factory floor, one job. And I think usually what that does is people go away just going like, I just feel more in control of this. I feel not overwhelmed and like I have access to turn off my brain on stage and just get into the space that I want to get. And a sense of what makes a great performance and a system for how to build it, right? Like and again, not a thing where you go, this is the part where you sit on the edge of the stage and get an acoustic and somebody plays a maraca. No, I can't even tell you how much I hate that. What we want to access is like, what do you want to fucking do in your dreams on stage? Like, what would be interesting? You want to wear a wedding dress covered in blood? Do you want to light your face by lantern? Do you want to cry? Whatever that is that makes you go, that would be cool. Let's figure out how to do that. That's what it is. So the technical show building, the confidence.
It is great. It's very repeatable. That's what I liked is you made a lot of this repeatable for me personally. And again, to everybody that I hope applies. If you check out in the comments, you have questions to how to get in this. We'll make sure that we're doing that. Yes, you should leave your maracas at home unless you want them there. Then bring them.
That's the thing, right? Maracas if maracas is your whole life and you grew up on maracas, we're putting some fucking maracas in this show.
That's it.
Let's go.
You know what? It's cool. It was that aspect of like, there's creation, which is art, which is art's around long enough. If the art exists long enough, it becomes a science. And then the science is a science until it gets innovated and we can't recreate it. And then it becomes an art again until we figure that out. And then it's a science. And what is so beautiful with that cycle is, all of us artists, like we go out there, it's an art, get up on stage. It's an art. It's an art. It's art. We hang it with you. And it was like, oh, this is a science. And that magic, that lightning in a bottle is repeatable because there's a science to it. There's things we can do to access this feeling and this creativity and this understanding whenever we want. So you can wake me up out of a cold, deep sleep with a cold bucket of water in the face, throw us on a stage and say, hey, go. And you're like, all right, well, I'm out of it, but I can figure it out because it's a science. It's not just this art. So that was really cool, man. The whole science, art, and bringing it back to like, no, your art is a science. And it's going to stay that way until you innovate it back into an art, which you can also figure out again. So it's
there you go again. That's right.
I love it.
Said.
Well, hey, a lot of what I say on a regular basis, it's cool. It's not even necessarily stuff that this is what's so great is that like what we worked with you maybe like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, maybe like 5 years ago. And what was so great about it is that, like I said, you flip some switches in some brains and then once that switch is flipped, you leave the situation with it, you take it and you have your life and you apply it and you learn some things and then you come up with your own thing. But that was the thing is that Luther was teaching us not recipes. He was teaching us how to cook. So now we can cook and we can come back and like share some recipes, but it's learning how to cook so you can have your own recipes and your own kind of way of looking at it. So
that's awesome. Appreciate that. And on board as well as CQ, Carolyn Quinn. Like,
yes,
there's a damn good vocal coach, like easily one of the best vocal coaches in the country coming out to this thing too. So like we're going in on performance on this and she's got mad moves, this vocal coach. So there's another reason to show up.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And you know what? Yeah, we were focusing on you and talking on this, but that's such a huge part of it. As musicians, as artists, so much of the time we're using our voice. Even if you're not a vocalist, if you're just an instrumentalist, you make sure you apply. But if you are a vocalist specifically, make sure that you can come out there too. We're going to teach you how to be better, a version of you on stage.
Create and perform. That's right. And
There you
that's why I love swim. Like
go. Yeah.
this is not really done very much, where it's not a sort of annoying industry thing where you're kind of hearing from people where you're like, do I even care? Like I've been to thousands of those. This is pretty focused on creativity and performance. And
Yes.
those are there's your fundamental skills. And also, by the way, the fun ones.
Yeah.
They're the
Yeah.
fun ones.
Actually. And we're with swim. It is the sound waves music meeting. It's going to be happening in June, the 23rd of June, the 24th of June, and the 25th of June. We're going to have some showcases. We're going to have a lot of artist instruction and kind of classes and ways to kind of fill some gaps and help you to grow past some barriers, especially after dusting off the COVID rust that we've probably been having for the last few years. And we're going to learn a lot of great stuff. There is going to be some industry there, and there are going to be some industry focused seminars that are really going to help you, but we're going to try and present them from a fashion and a point of view as it's about you, the artist, and making you a better artist so that you can interact more powerfully in the world. So with that said and done, Luther Mallory has been here, wonderful performance coach. This has been probably one of my favorite MusicWorks sessions because it's pushing everything towards this big event. Again, swim, June 23rd, June 24th, June 25th. Luther's going to be there all 3 days. Carolyn Quinn, one of the most amazing vocal coaches in the country, is going to be there. We're going to have a bunch of other events that we're going to be rolling out and letting you know, and we're going to be putting some early bird kind of advanced tickets and save the date and all that good stuff. So make sure you stay tuned with us. Luther, before we go, is there anything that you want to tell the wonderful people who are going to be watching this?
Just apply, because why not? Apply. It doesn't matter if you're a beginner, if you're a veteran, just apply, because why not? And Manitoba has cool ass artists. And it's really true, because Diaphane put me onto a bunch of cool artists.
She's dope.
Golden, like this Begonia, Golden Boy, like all of this stuff, and Slow Leaves, and like it's crazy. You know, Manitoba really has a coolness, that I don't see in Toronto very much, and an artisticness, and that's partially where the culture is going, kind of like out of mainstream and into like, let me do my own sort of niche kind of thing a little bit. But like listening to this Manitoba music and getting suggestions from everybody, it's just like the province knows what's up with it being artistic and cool and creative, and it doesn't feel pretentious. It feels artsy and awesome. So it would be cool. I just want to come spend 3 days with cool ass artists, and so just apply. Yeah. Why not? And definitely come to the DTS, the Destroy the Stage event, because it's 2 hours of crazy high energy. You haven't seen anything like this in terms of performance coaching. And so it's a fun time. Let's go.
That's awesome. You heard it. Destroy the Stage is going to be happening June 25th, the 23rd, 24th of June. We're going to be doing the one-on-one coaching. All of it taking place at the West End Cultural Center. It's all for SWIM, beautiful acronym. Sound Waves Music Meeting. Big up to Ashley for coming up with that wonderful name. And we're going to keep it moving. So you have a great rest of your day. You make sure you have a great rest of your week. You make sure that you get rested and you feel great, and you get your applications in on time so that we can do all of this in person. Okay, Alex Shani, Luther Mallory, Manitoba Music. We will see you guys.